Are you feeling anxious or depressed and want valuable insight into how to raise your vibration and have positive energy day to day? Stay tuned for this episode of Spirit Lift. Before we get started, please remember to like, subscribe, and to hit the notification bell down below so you'll be informed each and every time we upload new episodes around themes of spirituality, health, nutrition, and well-being. In this episode of Spirit Lift, I have the pleasure of speaking with Fahra from Canada. Fahra is an intuitive energy healer and founder of the Agency of Healers. Fahra, welcome to Spirit Lift.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I thank you so much, Fahra, and I'm really looking forward to speaking with you on this episode of Spirit Lift and really give people a sense of hope and valuable insight, really, and to have a better sense of feeling better day to day, really raising especially their energy field, their way of being in a way that they can feel driven and motivated to just go in the right direction and in the way they truly desire in life. Because we're filming this episode now 1 year after WHO declared COVID-19 a global pandemic. A lot of people are still feeling very distraught, very anxious, very depressed, probably still more than ever since this all started. And there's some really, really striking, just very briefly, Fahra, statistics that I think highlight how catastrophic this situation still is for many people. And there's many, many statistics, and maybe they're not all so accurate, but just to get a sense of things. 40% of U.S. adults reported struggling with mental health and substance abuse. That's from the CDC. 1 in 4 older adults report anxiety or depression amid the pandemic. And rate of depression, and this is from Great Britain, has doubled since the pandemic. So, you know, there's so many others, obviously, that are going on, and things that are affecting even children as well, right, in many countries. And so I just think we're still in a situation globally where people just feel like life is still not on track. We're not where we really truly desire and want to be, right? And that has to do a lot with how we feel. We just feel like we're stuck still. We feel like we're not moving forward. We feel just, overwhelmed with fear, So I think this discussion with you is going to be very insightful, very helpful. And especially later on, if people want to work with you, they can connect with you at an appropriate time. So, Fahra, welcome to Spirit Lift. And can you please explain a little bit about yourself, about your background, the Agency of Healers, and why did you decide to get into the line of work you're doing now?
Okay. It's
a lot of questions.
A lot of questions.
We come in hard.
Yes. I mean, you could say I've been on the spiritual path for about 20 years. It sort of started with one particular experience. I had lost my cousin. He passed away suddenly in a car accident, and I was having a really hard time. And I was in a lot of pain, and I really didn't know how I was going to feel better. And thankfully, a cousin of mine who was also in the UK, she had just become a Reiki master. And she's like, listen, Fahra, I'm going to do this for you because I think it's really going to help you. And I said, listen, I'm open to everything. And I mean, I was already quite a spiritual person, but I hadn't really sort of dabbled in energy work. And so that experience was quite life-changing. Like, I just felt so much vibration in my body. I felt this connection to her. I felt just this overwhelming sense of like peace and love that came over me. And that was sort of the beginning of my exploration into this type of work. So there was that. And then, I really just loved that experience. So I started learning. I learned Reiki for myself. And then I started to practice on family and friends. And I
And
just realized.
how old were you at that time, Farah? Just to know.
I would say in my mid to late mid 20s. I can't recall.
Yeah.
You know, like now you're asking me I'm thinking about my age.
Yes. But I know you're 25 or 6, so don't worry.
Yeah, exactly. No. That sort of opened things up for me. And then it's amazing. The amazing thing with this type of work is that when you start to open yourself up to this type of energy, you naturally draw in people who sort of vibrate at that same level as you. And then from there, it just opened me up to so many other opportunities to learn different modalities and really connect with other people that were doing similar work. And that's really how it started. In terms of my work as an energy healer, I mean, I've really just in the last couple of years, I would say is when I've really focused on my own practice, working with clients. So, and I've just seen that sort of evolve and grow. And then through that came the idea to start this new company called the Agency of Healers, which because I'm so passionate about this work, I wanted to create a platform where I represent healers and really sort of showcase their work. And I really wanted to bring awareness to the healing arts because there's so many people that still don't know about this work.
That's really interesting, Farah. And when you say that you work with other healers to help attend to clients' specific needs, specific issues, can you elaborate a little bit more on that? And who are the healers? What do they do exactly? And how do they really, help people? Like in which sort of way? Is it energetically or
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, essentially the idea is to represent them and sort of, again, like you're saying, highlight the work that they do. And yes, depending on what a client needs or what an organization needs, then I'm able to refer them the right healer for what they're looking for. So for example, recently I had a client I was working with and she's on her fertility journey, having some struggles. So I do have a healer that works with women to help them solve their period problems, reorientate their fertility journeys, and she really helps them to learn how to heal their bodies through plant medicine and really helping them tap into their own energy and their own healing abilities. So that's just one example. There might be a organization who wants to bring in somebody to help their employees with mindfulness practices or meditation, just especially during this time, and really supporting them. So, I have a healer who has been a meditation for many, many years. She's also an energy healer, crystal healer. So she's able to sort of bring in different elements to her practice as well.
I mean, that sounds really helpful, I guess, in many ways for people who are looking for a specific thing, because I think what may not work for just anybody is just having like some kind of, especially in these times, having just some kind of very blanketed way of, okay, well, take this thing, try this thing, and maybe it'll work. But no, I mean, what's interesting in what you're doing is, okay, this is the right person for this right issue that you have going on, and this is how we help you. So I think that's quite
and
amazing.
It's also exactly, and sort of what resonates with you. But then also, like, I'll do a session and the person also needs some body work. So I have somebody, we're this business is a global business, but if there's certain cities, because I'm based in Toronto, I do have a few more healers based here that, can do more work with the body, right? So whether that's craniosacral therapy or acupuncture or herbal medicine, or that they can meet in person and do the body work to help release things from the body. So it's just bringing, the different modalities together when it's needed. And then I have somebody that does something like transformational training. He's a physiotherapist who's an energy healer who's created something really unique where he's able to help work with the client's mind, body, and spirit and bring that all together. And he works globally because he does it, remotely, but he's able to guide people through that journey. So there's so many different practices and ways of working. And sometimes it's just like, what is it that you need at this time? So depending on where you are on your journey, there's so much available to us.
And you kind of help potential clients, like, do you ask them what's going on with their life and see what they're really needing, and then put them then with the right person?
Yes, or I'll be guided to that, like that example with the fertility journey. Recently, I worked with someone who has a lot of trauma, and my work is not so focused on deep-rooted trauma. So I was able to refer her to somebody that does this type of work. So she's a shadow integration coach, and she can really get to the deepest traumas to help the client work through that. So that's just another example of something that, could be very supportive to really help the person really transform their lives and really heal. And because she had done a lot of therapy, she'd done a lot of traditional therapy, but there was still something that was still, as an adult, this trauma from her childhood was still, there was still a lot of things coming up in her life now.
Yeah.
So
no, that's really important, because we just, I think more than ever are needing, someone to really help us if we're seeking it to deal with a very specific issue. Especially people, now who are going through a lot of financial strife, right? The global pandemic has really set back a lot of people's financial situations as well, job situations. So, and I think there's absolutely a lot of heightened issues related to that, and that can put a huge strain. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Like the increased, like you said earlier, the anxiety and depression, that's been one of the things that has been really big. And a lot of my clients lately, they have been dealing with the anxiety, but it's interesting because a lot of them had never really experienced energy work. And so for their anxiety, they were doing different things. Again, therapy, which is always wonderful and always needed. But there's different ways to work through anxiety. One of the things for me, I think is very powerful, is breath work and really being present, and then doing the energy healing. And so I've seen my clients have noticed a big impact on their lives, and they've been able to reduce their anxiety significantly just from one session sometimes. So, and this is some people that have been dealing with anxiety for a number of years. And so, but because a lot of it got heightened, I think people were searching, and people were starting to look within and say, I'm willing to try something new, right? So a lot of my clients this past year were a lot of new clients that had never had any experience with energy work, which I think is so beautiful, because it means that people are opening up to this.
That's quite amazing as well, right? In a way, the pandemic has pushed us out of an old routine and opened the door for, let's say, for lack of a better expression, exploration, right? Exactly. Explore other aspects or avenues of life itself that we may not have really given any credence to, or had time for, or cared about, so it has, opened other, ideas of just ways of being, ways of life, ways of existence,
Yes, absolutely. And even personally, I've seen within my friends and family who never would even, I would never even talk to them about this work. And now they are so interested, and they're doing things at home now, and they just feel so much better. And I'm like, that's beautiful. Like that's what I want. I want everybody to know what's possible. And because I know what it's done for my life, even just this past year, I feel like I've gone through another transformation with just sharing this work.
No, that's great, Fahra, that people have, even your inner circle have reached out to you and are desiring to explore these really, really essential ways of transforming their own lives, feeling better day to day, and just having a different perception of life itself. I think it's just absolutely amazing. And I want to, if we can, discuss in more detail in general for people that are just not too aware of just the concept of energy work, energy itself, how it really plays an integral part of what we are. Okay, because I don't think, depending on what your scientific beliefs are, your spiritual practices, etc., like the idea of vibration energy can mean very different things to different people. So let's just say, according to you and the work you do and what you've come to learn, can you explain, like, from your perspective, how important it is to understand our own energy? And going back to what you said earlier, like you said, when your energy and vibration is a certain way, you track certain things into your life. So can we explain that all more kind of conceptually, in more detail, what that all means?
Sure. So, I mean, I'm not very, I don't have I'm not very the scientific person, so I won't really speak to that too much. But, the idea is that we're energetic beings. So this idea that, it's just in our day-to-day lives, we can see it, right? Like exactly what you just said, that I've given that example of being drawn to certain people. But it's like walking into a room and just all of a sudden I feel really great, or actually I don't feel great, or meeting somebody and just feeling like something doesn't feel right. And it's really just tapping into that and opening that up. And so I just find when you're able to, it can just be in the simplest ways, from deciding to take a different route to work, or saying, you know what, this doesn't feel right. I don't feel like I should go to this place today, and actually really listening to yourself. That is really tapping into, one, your intuition, and really understanding that we are all energy and it's a vibration. So does that answer?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so do you, sometimes I pull and tug with this idea myself. Like, do you think let's say, for example, if we're a person who's naturally always in a good mood, always happy, always lively, and let's just say something bad, quote unquote bad, comes into our life, like an accident, we lose somebody, somebody says something about us, whatever, are we necessarily attracting that thing, or is that in the way you see it happening just as a in its own way, as an experience to us, and then how we deal with it? Like,
I think it's like we bring in these different experiences to help us learn something, and sometimes when it's something negative, it's really hard to understand why it's happening. But I've started to really just trust in every experience that's coming towards me. And so how can I learn from that particular experience? What is it trying to show me? What is this person trying to show me? Do I need to learn more patience? Do I need to learn how to be kinder? What is it that I need to learn about that particular experience that's happening? And I find, I tended to be someone who I thought was generally a upbeat, happy person, but I also am someone that could actually get really sort of depressed easily and get really sad. And what I've found is, now that I've come to this place where I'm at, I just feel this deep sort of inner peace that when things do feel a little bit more challenging, I'm able to overcome them a lot faster than I would have. Right? So it's like looking at it in front of you and saying, okay, this is the situation in front of me, and really looking at it, because I find that a lot of people, they don't want to look at it, which is part of the problem. It's like we just need to look at it, face it, and decide how we're going to move through it. Because it is easy to just sort of ignore it or put it under the rug. And that's that's not what we should be doing, because it will come up in your life in different ways or at different points in your life.
I think you're making a really important point there, that I think even a lot of people's anxieties and depressive related issues are about not recognizing many things or just neglecting or putting something off, right? I mean, because as a energy healer, do you see that as trapping energy in a way? Like, for example, if I want to avoid this person because of how they are or what they said to me, or my significant other is making me feel like this, but I can't tell them, etc. And not really approaching it and giving it a sense of release. Are we just trapping that energy somewhere in our body?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like when you're keeping everything inside and you're actually not dealing with it, and sometimes it's difficult if it's a situation with someone, you may not always feel like you can go to them and say, this is what I'm feeling, or this is how I see the situation. But sometimes it's just about the work that we do on an energetic level that can help us shift that and transform it. And sometimes for example, in my sessions, I might have the client actually do work where they actually do work on their inner child. Like, they actually go to that little girl that maybe needed that healing, or that little boy, or actually speaking to, recently I had someone just talking to her dad and her brother about how she felt about what they were doing. And she actually felt a massive release from that experience. And she noticed that when she went to visit them, something had shifted. So she was able to forgive them and express herself the way she feels like she cannot do in person. And it's so powerful. So that's just one example. And then also, like you said, like keeping it stored in the body, and it will come out in different ways. I've seen in my own self, like I was keeping maybe some things inside that I wasn't dealing with, or I wasn't, addressing some issues, and it would come out in anger at certain points. And I couldn't understand why I was so angry about something, but it was because I hadn't dealt with this other particular issue. So it will come out in different ways. And for other people, it might come out anger, sadness, depression, anxiety, rage. So there's so many different ways it can come out. But it needs to come out of the body. It needs to be released.
I think that is so important what you're saying, because I think, just listening to how you're explaining that, seems that, possibly a lot of our anger is not so much on day-to-day compulsions to just get angry at life for the sake of it, but it's old baggage, so to speak, right? Something that happened 5 years ago, we never dealt with it, or give it two thoughts to get through it or grieve through it or whatever it was, stays there somewhere, and it comes out in a way that can, let's say, be more explosive or even hostile,
Yeah, and I'm sure we can all think of someone who we know is quite an angry person all the time, or who is sort of has a lot of rage, and you can just be around them and know, like, that's just who they are. And it's not because of that car that jumped in front of them, or that person that stepped, in front of them in the line. It's not about that. It's about a deep-rooted issue that needs to be worked through. And sometimes people don't think they have an issue. Like, I have people that tell me, no, that's not an issue for me, but I'm seeing something. And oftentimes it will come out, and they didn't realize, like, that was actually why they have this particular belief system. Like someone who was getting bullied as a child didn't really deal with it, and then thought the way she lives her life now, she thought it has nothing to do with that. But it came up in our session, and I said, well, something happened to you as a child, and she just sort of buried it. And I'm not, and that's where it gets a little tricky, because it's like you're telling someone, well, not that that's the reason, but imagine if you were able to just look at that situation and acknowledge it, and really it wasn't fair that person had to go through that, and heal it and release it, there's just something else that happens to your spirit, to your body, to your soul. Like it changes you, you know, and it's hard to sometimes explain it until you have that experience.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. I mean,
it's very powerful. It's very,
Sure.
very powerful.
And what people that in general that you like, can you give our viewers and listeners who are listening on podcast platform sort of some kind of, you know, you don't have to name anybody, but just some sort of type of testimonials or insights into people that you've worked with where you've just seen a dramatic transformation on the work that you've done with them, like as an energy healer?
Sure. Let me see here. So I've seen people get their voice back, you know, people
Really?
that were too afraid to speak, too afraid to show who they are, and really be authentic about who they are and how they want to serve. And I think I've worked with a lot of women recently. I feel like I'm recently attracting these specific women that really want to step out and really show who they are, but they lost their voice. And I've found that, you know, after a sessions, they feel more clear, they feel more brave. They're starting to share more on social media about what they're trying to create in their lives. So that's just a small example. I've worked with someone, a phenomenal woman who went through cancer in the last 2 years. You know, her relationship broke. Her mother passed away just when she was diagnosed. And so she's had a very, very difficult journey. And, you know, she's always telling me how much I've been such a big part of her healing journey. And she talks about this idea of having a wellness team. You know, she's like, I have my oncologist, I have my nutritionist, I have my, you know, and then she goes, and then I have you know, and I've seen her transformation. And I kept telling her that I don't recognize her anymore because of the work that she's been doing, not just with me, but actually taking the work that we do and then doing the work on herself.
Yeah.
You know, a big part of my work is the idea that I'm here to support you. I'm here to give you guidance through spirit, through your guide, you know, your higher self, on what you're needing, what answers you're looking for, and what guidance you're needing. Only because I've accessed that and I'm able to hear that for you and share that with you, so you can walk away with all the tools to empower yourself to be your own healer. Essentially, that's really the premise of my work, and to just show people what's possible. You know, if I'm able to tap into that, everybody is. It's not just for me, it's not just for healers. You know, we've just learned these specific modalities that have opened something up in us. But I know people that haven't done energy work, but they already live their lives like that. And some of them are artists and creatives. One of my friends, she has her own branding company, and everything she does is based on intuition and the guidance she receives. You know, frankly, she might be more intuitive than me. So, you know, so it's just showing people what's possible. And oftentimes when I'm telling them something, they already knew that deep within themselves. It's just me expressing it to them because they just needed to hear the words from someone. And that's why I love it too, right? It's so beautiful to be able to share that and witness it.
You're touching on something really important. I think what you said as being essentially like almost a type of key guide or key enabler for people to feel empowered about who they really are and what they can experience for themselves. I think that is just golden, because again, we're all human beings, right? I mean, we all can access these deep things within us, these energies, and access that type of vibration that is, you know, some say our soul, some say, you know, part of God, etc. But the point is, it's just like, you know, for me, I just correlate these things under two main things: love or fear. I think love is an expansionary type of energy where everything becomes infinite and possible, and including having these type of accesses to the right energy, the right vibration, etc. Or it contracts, right? It's fear, where it's just like close, and then it just, everything falls apart. So, I think what you're explaining with the work that you do and the people within, the agency healers do as well, is just like, how do we open you up so you access this infinite?
Yes, that's what we're just showing you what's possible, right? Like, and every healer I work with, the same, there's no ego, it's all about how I can show you like what's possible, what's available to us, and really opening. The thing is that we don't want to get quiet enough. That's like one of the biggest ways to, people always ask me, well, how can I tap into that? I'm like, the easiest way is to get quiet, to actually be still and go within, take some time to listen to what's coming through. I mean, even for me, it was a practice. On my Instagram, I do these weekly channel posts, and the first one, I felt the call to do it because when the pandemic happened, I wanted to help. And my only way I felt I could do it was by sending healing. So I would do sort of this, like, every Sunday night, I would do this global healing, and I would just spend a half an hour just sending healing to the planet. And from there is when the guidance started coming. And I said, well, I'm meant to share this. So that's when I started doing these posts. But of course, initially, again, it was like allowing that information to come through and trusting that whatever's coming through is perfect and not to judge it. And that's what we all need to do, right? With whatever we're doing in our lives, right? Whether it's going to a particular job interview or feeling called to move somewhere. And if we could all live like that, I mean, how amazing would that be?
I know. And it just takes, one person at a time. Sometimes it takes one instance at a time, sometimes, to really move things. But, I see it as well as like a snowball effect, right? Like, rubbing off someone the right way will precipitously always rub someone else off the right way in another way,
Yeah, and it's just that little spark. Sometimes it's just that little, for me, sometimes it's just, I'll get a private DM on Instagram about a post I did or something I wrote, and it just sparked something in them. It opened something in them. And that's all I'm here to do. I'm just, and it's been so profound for me. So I want to share it. Because it's really such a gift to live from this space and really come from love. Exactly. Right? I think you asked, like, how can we, one of the questions I think we talked about earlier, before the interview, about, how can we raise the vibration? And it really comes down to our unconditional love for humanity and for each other, and really coming from a place of pure love, which is exactly what you just said, being in that love, energy of love and expansion, right? Yeah. And we're able to send it out to others. It's not something we need to keep for ourselves, right?
Yeah,
we're meant to share it. And then just the idea that we're one, right? Like, you are me, I am you, and we are one. And when you come from that space, that's just, like you said, the gold. That's the gold.
Yeah, it's everything. And I with the particular experience that comes to my mind, thinking about that kind of energy reminds me of going to a really good concert, right? Like, here where I live in Mexico City, fortunately the people love music here, and they have big stadiums. And so, there's some concerts I've been to in the past where just, a certain song comes on by this band and everyone's just like, just so much positive energy. You're like, oh, you feel like you're in another universe, and those kind of circumstances, right? When that happens, it's an amazing experience, and if I have, because we're running close to our time, but I want to ask you at least a couple more things before we do. Is what are some, let's just say someone right now is watching this and just feels totally stuck, just really, really in the gutter with the way they feel and see life and just are experiencing life in general. Like, what are some just very practical, basic things at least that they could do like right now today just to turn the
Sure.
tide a little bit, like just some very practical things?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing that came to me is being present, like being present in your body. So, taking a moment to close your eyes and really going through every part of your body, just to like witness that, like we have this beautiful vessel, this beautiful body, and really coming into presence with it to really feel what that means. And then taking a moment to look around you and see, find 5 things to that are beautiful to you, whether it's looking out the window and seeing the birds chirping, maybe it's a favorite plant or a book or anything like that, just to bring you into the present, bring you into your body. A gratitude practice. I know people talk about this a lot. Even when I started doing it, I was like, okay, yeah, I can be grateful. But I never really thought I was getting anything out of it. But truly, it is quite magical when you really start to take note of that every single day. And it can be very, very simple things. I know people are really going through a difficult time. Like you said, we talked about people losing like their jobs, and finances are really difficult, and maybe they can't get enough food on their plate. But can we just be grateful that if you do have a roof over your head, you can have clean drinking water. Hopefully you can have clean drinking water, that you have some clothing, some warm clothing to put on. Just simple things like that, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be these grandiose things. And then the other thing, if they're open to it, is the writing. Like I mentioned earlier, the intuitive writing. It's not about just taking a moment, write down whatever comes to you. Don't judge it, just allow it to flow through you. This is just for you. And it's a very beautiful way to release, because if there's a lot of people out there at home by themselves and they're not sure, and one, absolutely, you should reach out for help. If you need help, do reach out to somebody, but this is a good way to start to release and get things out on paper and see what comes up for you. And just having that awareness of like, what is it that's stirring up in me where I'm feeling so much sadness or pain or anxiety, and also moving the body, just trying to move your body and move the energy out, right? It's really good for our nervous system to like shake the energy off, move the energy, get it out of our body some way. So those are just some simple ways that we can start to sort of tap into that.
I love that. So viewers and listeners, take please into consideration what Fahra's saying. So if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling depressed, get out and walk, or move around in your house, apartment, wherever you are. Move your body to some capacity, somehow, something you enjoy. As Fahra said, just whatever, no filter. Whatever's coming to you and is impressed upon you, write it down without thinking. Just write it, right? Just write it all down. And then look around you, okay? Even look at your toilet, okay? And say, look, I have indoor plumbing, okay?
Yes.
Look at your
Beautiful
sink,
example.
open the faucet, the water comes out. I have running water. And feel in your heart how appreciative you are of that, and just realize many people don't have that, right? And how their life is totally different from yours, and just recognize the beauty around you. Very practical, very important things you're saying, Fahra. And I think anyone right now can really do that, no matter how they feel, and just,
yes, and try to do it every day. Again, it's a practice, but just taking a few minutes every day to even start your day like that can really be life-changing.
Absolutely. And finally, Fahra, just to wrap up this incredible episode with you, what is the one thing that you can say to people out there watching this video or listening on podcast platform? What can you say to them just to make them feel uplifted today? A sense of hope, a sense of a nugget that they can take away and just really, really remember in their mind today, about just facing this day with all of, the love in their heart and realize how special they truly are.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just said, I was going to say, like, truly that you are loved. And I know it sounds cliche, but it's true. And that you are not alone. And I promise you, you're not alone, because what I've seen when I'm able to connect energetically to, our angels and guides, there are other beings that are supporting us. And I know it might sound a little woo for a lot of people, but if you open yourself up to that, just know that you are supported. And when you ask the universe will answer you. So even if you're physically alone, you're never truly, truly alone. And don't be afraid to reach out and be vulnerable. Like, there are so many people that want to help you. So if you feel like you can't go to your friends or family, then find the other ways to get the support that you need. But don't avoid doing it because you're scared of being judged. Because I promise you, when it comes to the work that I do and the work I do with my other healers and all the healers I surround myself with, there is no judgment. They are all there to support you and create a safe space for you to be who you are in that present moment. So if you're angry, if you're sad, they want to see all of it so that they can help you work through it.
That's incredible. That is just absolutely incredible. Thank you so much, Fahra. And where can people watching this video, this episode, or listening on podcast platform, where can they connect with you, find out more about your work, and essentially work with you?
So I'm primarily on Instagram at the Agency of Healers. And there I highlight a lot of the healers I represent. So that's sort of my main platform, and also my website to find out more details about any of the healers is theagencyofhealers.com. And if any larger companies, organizations want to work with the healers, we can create anything that they're looking for that will suit their needs. And I think that the main platform I say would be the Instagram page for sure. And they can always reach out to me directly for any additional support, or if they wanted to book sessions with myself or any of the other healers.
Excellent. And Spirit Lifters, we're going to include all of Fahra's information in the description notes, in the pinned comments, so that you can connect with her wherever you are in the world, and she can find really the right type of healer for what's going on in your life and really change your life around. So I highly recommend connecting with Fahra, and she'll be able to guide you. So Fahra, thank you so much for being on this episode of Spirit. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Fahra. And we'll see you all, Spirit Lifters, on the next episode. Take care, everyone.